really excited about this one. I'm here with Thomas Smith. Thomas has done multiple short movies, over 61 titles in his career, working currently most famous for Demon Squad, but working on in the process of getting Demon Squad 2, which I'm very excited about. I'm really excited to speak to him, so I'm not going to talk much more in my intro. A super creative guy who is, doing like a lot of the people we interview on the channel, showing his love of cinema by going out and doing it. And that's what I really admire, by just, putting himself out there and making films that he enjoys making, and that, well, I for one enjoy watching. So it was lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining us, Thomas.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, thank you. Now, I was looking through your kind of history and trying to catch as many of the shorts as I could. I think as well with Demon Squad, one thing I was going to mention straight away was that people are maybe looking for Demon Squad in isolation from Mystery Science Theater. They might not realize that it sometimes comes up under Night Hunters as well.
Yeah, it sometimes comes up as Night Hunters, sometimes Full Moon Inc. It's if you search on YouTube, it would be there for free, or on Tubi, it'll definitely be under Demon Squad. But on YouTube, some of the channels have it up for free, and it's sometimes Night Hunters, sometimes Full Moon Inc., sometimes Demon Squad. It was originally, when we shot it, it was going to be Full Moon Inc., and then the distributors changed the name a couple of times, and we didn't really have much say in that. We kind of liked Night Hunters when they shifted it over to that for about 5 minutes. Still not crazy about Demon Squad, but I think we're stuck with it now. I think the biggest question that we get is that, it's two people. There's Nick Moon and Daisy, two people. How is that a squad? So that's one thing that we have yet to wrap our minds around, but I think we're stuck with it.
Yeah, they've not, they've not seen Demon Squad 3, 4, 5, and 6 yet. So they maybe need to, just hang fire a little bit. So
yeah, exactly.
Going back to those short films, was that your kind of entryway into filmmaking, learning your craft, getting your creativity out there? How did you get started with those short films? Because there's plenty of people, I'm sure, who would love to do it but don't put that toe in the water.
Yeah, it took a while to work up the courage to do anything, because I'd always have ideas. Like in high school, I would be writing out little stories or scripts. I'm like, man, this would be really cool to film. But then at that time, that was like late 90s. The equipment wasn't nearly as available. You were lucky if you could get your hands on a handy cam for a few $100s, but then it's like, how do I edit this and all that? And then iMovie was just kind of coming out, then making it more accessible. But it was difficult at first. So when I went to college, they had a campus TV station there called Jag TV that I volunteered at as a production assistant, and eventually got hired on as a programming manager. So I kind of had easy and free access to editing bays, cameras, tripods, and then people that were interested in helping. And so that I started playing around with things there. And then I took a few film classes, and we had to work together as a team to make short films and do little editing projects. And so as I got more and more comfortable with it, I decided, I'm gonna make some of my own stuff. And they were just god awful little shorts. There was one, I think it's been scrubbed from the internet, thankfully. That was like a ninja in high school with the sidekick, and it was like badly dubbed and all this sort of stuff. It was just silly and goofy. It was a lot of fun to make, but it was one of those things where it cost $0 to make. Whatever we got for props and costuming came from the dollar store, so there was no like, if this doesn't work, we're in dire straits or something. It was just, we're going to goof around, figure out what we like, what we don't like. And so that was a lot of just playing around and learning. And then from there, after college, I decided, I'm going to actually make a short on my own and take it seriously and try to put a little bit of money into it. It was like $100 or $200. It wasn't much, but it was something. And it just kind of went from there. And as I got more and more confident and built up a little bit more of a repertoire of crew and actors, it got a lot easier. Still difficult, but a lot easier, because I knew that I had people that could support me, and knew what their limitations were and what they could do. And so it just kind of went from one short to the next, kind of trying different genres and different stories to see what I enjoyed and what I excelled at. We found out very quickly that drama, like straight drama, just wasn't. It was just we just got too bored with it. So it was always something kind of adventure-y or fantasy, and then eventually from there, once we kind of, I think the last short that we did before we did our first feature, the night shift, may have been like a superhero spoof or something. And so from after that, we decided we're gonna take the plunge and try to make a feature for as little money as we could, and that was the night shift, which um, it got distribution. It was out on DVD and streaming for a bit. And that was 2011. And right now we got the rights back a few years ago because the distributor went out of business. So now it's back out on DVD through our self distribution thing because it was shot in like SD and it's 127 minutes long, and it was kind of primitive for the time because everyone was trying to get the film look without having to get the film cameras. So we had like a DV camera with like the red rock attachment on the front that would take cinematic lenses and all this sort of thing. And you don't need that anymore. So everything is just, it was a different time. But yeah, it kind of got off on a tangent there. But yeah, just
no, that's really interesting actually, because
it's just building up
each one of those things
confidence
is a step, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's just building up confidence and finding people to support you and that share the same passion and interests, because you can't do this alone. It's not a one-man show. You have got to find people who are willing to, spend the time and the effort and get down and dirty and waste their time sometimes, because things don't always work out. And it's a lot easier to do that when you're younger and getting out of college or in college. Now that I have a kid, it's a little more difficult, but we're finding time to make it happen.
That's really cool, man. So like in terms of where you are location wise, Mobile, am I saying that correctly? Mobile,
Yes,
Alabama. Is that a conducive place for making movies? Is there a thriving movie scene there, or independent movie scene, or is it? Have you made that yourself?
when I started, there wasn't much of anything. Our biggest claim to fame for a while was that Close Encounters of the Third Kind was filmed here,
Cool.
and then like Under Siege was filmed here, and there really wasn't much going on. Most people, if they filmed anything here, it was in Birmingham, Alabama, New Orleans, Louisiana. There's still a lot going on over there, and in Atlanta, there's a lot going on in Birmingham, but there is more going on here now. We had around 2015, we had this little boom of Nick Cage movies that got filmed here, and that kind of has settled down now. And from that, I think a few like commercial production houses sprung up from that, and we do have a little bit more of crew and resources now, but it's still kind of a novel thing,
Yeah.
Because
it's interesting to kind of hear about, because people just in the UK, certainly, we just think Hollywood, and anyone from America does something out of Hollywood. But there's pockets. I always think about Romero in Pittsburgh, and things like that. Just people popping up and kind of making things happen. That's a real challenge in itself, isn't it? Where there isn't a precedent there. There isn't like a college where everybody who went there went on and did something and then invited everybody else along.
Exactly, and the benefit of it is that you tend to find more people who are willing to participate and are game, because they're not in it for the money or for the recognition. They're in it for the experience and to just learn. So our local university has a pretty good film program, and so we've been able to get a lot of students from there to help out in the past. And so most people, they're just excited to be a part of it and to learn and to get some experience. And then they move on to Atlanta or New Orleans and start their career. I mean, there have been a few that started with us who have gone on. They've got steady careers now in the entertainment industry, doing stuff behind the scenes. So it's really it makes it a little bit more difficult to find people, but the ones you do find are very much into it and passionate about it.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good that you're kind of getting the opportunity to kind of help other people along the way as well. Again, mentioning that sort of collaborative side of things is really important. A lot of people kind of maybe see the director's name and they kind of just think of that and think of like an auteur who, but
Mhm.
that's the reality. The reality, even the biggest kind of auteur had to have a massive crew of people in able to make that happen.
And I can't
Um,
tell you how many times when we're getting crew or casting people, people come up to me and they're sir, serve this, sir that, or Mr. Smith, or they're afraid to email me or call me. I'm like, dude, just don't. Just it's me, just Thomas. Just it's not a big deal. I'm just a dude. So I think
yeah,
they
that's
see the title director and producer, and then they automatically assume, oh, I mean, yeah, on an actual Hollywood set, you wouldn't go up to Spielberg and be like, "Hey, Steve, what's up?" But here, it's just we're all just people.
yeah,
We're just trying to
yeah.
figure it out.
That certainly, I think in like indie film, independent horror, fantasy, sci-fi, it's a from my experience, the people I've interviewed and spent time with and worked with just tends to be very supportive,
Mm.
super creative, and want to help build each other up. Um, and I think that's what's quite, regardless of how people get to where they get to, it's nice to kind of remember that it wasn't, like you say, it wasn't alone. And that's, I'm kind of interested in this because Demon Squad has become a very well-known film, and I was interested in where you live and your locale. Did that, because I know you talked a little bit about, over in New Orleans and places like that. There's that mystical, magical, kind of element. Well, Demon Squad really does have that kind of black magic, magical. So that's kind of missing in horror, I think.
Hmm.
Especially because you mixed it with that Philip Marlowe esque
Hmm.
kind of, detective. What was the thinking behind that? Did you have like direct influences? For me, it had a nice feel. It reminded me of like some of the episodes of Angel, the TV show Angel, like a very much a detective, but
Hmm.
also there was the fantasy element. Have you been a big fan of fantasy? A big fan of horror? What brought you to the type of films that you make?
I've always been a fan of sort of adventure fantasy or adventure horror. Like the 99 Mummy is like perfect for me. It's Indiana Jones type deal. That's like what I
Adventure,
crave, but there's
yeah.
not a ton of that available. I mean,
There isn't,
it's
no.
like anytime someone's tried, it's usually flopped or hasn't been that great, hasn't lived up to expectations. So that's always been kind of like the pulp thing is kind of what's always kind of driven me, and that's what I like to see. So that's kind of the stories I like to tell. But originally, the Night Shift was sort of a pulp about a cemetery caretaker who his best friend's a skeleton that he carries around on his back because he doesn't have limbs, and it's kind of pulpy, and they save the world, that sort of thing. And so uh, one of the sequel ideas was going to have them team up with this kind of a jerk detective named Nick Moon, but we never really were able to figure out how to make that work. So eventually Nick Moon became his own thing.
Right.
um, and New Orleans always got the spotlight for being this really cool occulty place with all these crazy stories. And Mobile is New Orleans' sister city, and we have our fair share of really weird history and weird stories. I mean, there's a story that I was looking up some of the details the other day about like a wolf woman who was wandering around like in the 20s, I think. It came off of supposedly came off of a like a cargo ship and then terrorized some people and then eventually got back on the ship or something. Um,
Oh, weird.
and so we've got a lot of weird stuff like that, but people here don't embrace it and they don't talk about it. They like to
Ah,
sweep it under the rug. If you go up
right.
to someone and say, "Hey, I want to do a ghost hunt of this location," they just laugh in your face. So I
Ah,
kind of
okay.
wanted to bring that out and kind of shine a light on some of that. It's like, yeah, we got that too. Don't be afraid of it. It's
Yeah,
fun, you know. It's
that folk history that
yeah.
every place has, but like you say, some of them celebrate it, some of them make a lot of money off it
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah, they do. They do. New Orleans is making a ton of money off of that, and I feel like Mobile could do the same if there was support for it. But it's kind of wanting to celebrate that, and also, yeah, I was a huge fan of Angel and Buffy growing up, and that sort of thing. X-Files, Supernatural. So all these things, and then plus we had to keep in mind budget limitations. So a normal city with normal people for the most part, where it's like a bar, but that has some monsters in it. You know, it's like everything's pretty normal, but just a little off. So we could, afford to do that.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
ideally we'd love to do it bigger, but like have like a real Moss Isley Cantina bar. But it's you do what you can. We're in a pizza Hut, so.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's talk a little bit. I'm going to kind of dip into some things that I'm really interested about, if you don't mind, the kind of mystery science theater element of it and how that came to be. But before we do that, I really want to chat about something that I'm excited about. That you've been doing some crowdfunding for Demon Squad 2. Now,
Yep.
talk about that process. How did that get going? Obviously the next steps. Where are you in that process for those people who are excited? Obviously, people like myself, we've been following it, so we know. But the people who maybe go, "Oh, I didn't know there's going to be a Demon Squad 2." Where are you in that process?
Well, we are funded. We're on pre-production now. So after Demon Squad came out in, we shot it in 2015. It came out in 2019. We always wanted to do some kind of follow-up short films or something, but we're never able really to justify a budget because as these things go, you never really make your money back, or any at all. So we never were really able to get anything going. And then the MST3K thing happened, and there were enough people who enjoyed the movie on its own that wanted to see more. And so I guess then kind of peer pressure took over, and everyone's like, you guys should do a crowdfunder or a Kickstarter. If there's plenty of us here to back it. So we're like, we'll give it a shot. It's something that we had always thought about, but knew we didn't really have enough of a base to really make it work. But now it looks like we did. So first we tried kind of a larger, I think of the goal for the first one was like a little bit over 100,000 to do like a real proper film with sets and everything just to the max, for what we're trying to do. And that didn't work out. Yeah. Scale it out. We had a story that was really cool, but it needed like multiple sets, like a haunted house that needed all these big, fancy, luxurious places, which is expensive. So that one fell short. And it was ambitious, but we gave it a shot. So while we were working on that, we saw fairly, about halfway through that it wasn't gonna really take off like we hoped. So we kind of discussed with the MST3K fan community, what would you guys like to see? Would you like to see a short film? Would you like to see another feature, but a smaller target goal? And they were, either or, they were game for whatever. So we decided to set the goal for like 20,000 and do a new story. We had a story that I'd been working on that I didn't have a full script yet for. And we did, as soon as the first campaign ended, we did this one. And it was successful. It reached 150% of its goal. So we raised about 30,000. And then of course, you take out the rewards costs and the Kickstarter's fee and taxes, and you're left with about 27, which is still really good. So now I'm in the middle of, we finished the script. We're making final touches on that. Actually, one of the MST3K show writers wrote the script based on a story that the story points that I gave him, and we're kind of doing our polish on it now.
Nice.
That's really
cool. That's really supportive. To kind of to get that, because obviously I've just got the email back last week that they're not going to be making the season 14. And obviously you know, it's a completely different situation, but it's hard to know where to set those goals and what to aim for. And like we say, whatever you're doing to scale it up,
Mhm.
but also serve the people who have such a clear idea of what they want to see. But obviously, it's
Mhm.
your film, and you also have an idea of what you want to see and what
Yeah.
you want, or certainly what you want to put across to people. Maybe try something a little bit different. So that's where you are right now. So that's kind of this is a really key, exciting point, then, isn't it? This is where you're just about to get started in really creating that second film.
Yeah, it's not a spoiler to say that it features a wolf creature. And last week, Sunday or Monday, I placed the order with the effects company to build out that wolf suit. So it's happening. It's it's in the
Yeah,
process.
it's got to happen now.
Yeah, yeah. So it's I'm really excited to see it. We should get it in around March, I think. It'll take them
Oh, that's
probably
so
about 6
cool.
to 8 weeks to build that out. So we're really, really excited. We're hoping to shoot in spring, before it gets too hot here. But I'm working on building out some props and getting the costumes together. And once we have the script 100%, we'll look into casting and figuring out all our locations and all that
Oh, fantastic! That's exciting.
complicated stuff. Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned about kind of working collaboratively with somebody from MST3K, because I was thinking, I often think when I talk to people, and I have talked to a few people who've had their films riffed, got the full treatment, whether it's on Riff Tracks or whether it's on Mystery Science
Mhm.
Theatre or Cinematic Titanic or something like that. That it always makes me think about Joe Dante, because he famously really doesn't like it. He takes it as full on mockery, and this person's made a movie, and this movie is
Mhm.
kind of on a pedestal, regardless of the film. Full stop. It's on a pedestal because somebody loves that film. What do you say to that? Obviously you must have a slightly different take on that, otherwise it wouldn't wouldn't have
Yeah,
happened.
no, and Joe Dante's take is fair. I definitely see
Mm.
that because I was a fan of the show, high school,
Mhm.
college, and all the way up till the Netflix seasons and these new seasons. So I was very
Yeah.
familiar with the show and riff tracks and everything too. Um, it, I think at that time, I I probably would have had a different take on it.
Yeah.
But now, when I first learned that it was happening, I was like really excited, and then I was like, "Wait, is this a good thing or a bad thing?"
Ah,
But I
mm.
think there's enough people, as long as they're not mean. And the
Yes.
show definitely was not mean. They were very. I think Joel referred to it as dancing with the movie. They were very. They had fun with it.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
it's an honor that the guy, it's his first one that he'd riffed since 1993.
yeah.
Like on the show, like obviously,
Mhm.
um, that must be an honor that you must see, because I would, I would see it that way.
Definitely, yeah, that definitely is an honor. And yeah, it's definitely. Most people have been really supportive and nice. There, you do get into some of the comments on like Reddit or YouTube, and people are just terrible. But that goes for anything. So
Yeah, that's
try not to
that's
look at the
true.
comments. But there are a lot of very supportive people out there who, before the MST3K episode aired, they sought out the movie and watched it on its own, and they really just loved it. And then some people did the same afterward. Also, MST3K in their edit, they cut out a good 20 minutes of plot. So people who watched their version only and complain about things not making sense, like where did this come from? Where
Mm.
did that come from? Where did she go? If they watch that full
Okay.
movie, which some of them have since, they're like, oh yeah, that
Yeah,
makes more sense now. And I think that fixes a few of their problems.
that's really
Um,
interesting. Yeah,
and
that's really interesting.
and we made the movie for like 15 grand. We know it's not perfect. We're not precious about it. There are things I would
Yeah.
definitely like to do over again. And things that we tried that didn't quite work, but at the end of the day, we're proud of it. And we're honored that it's part of MSC3K. And with the way distribution is now, in a few years, it would be out of circulation. It would be probably lost media unless we put it back out on YouTube or something. But now it's going to be forever with MST3K, as long as, you know, Shop Factory is around and Joel and everyone's around. It'll have a home and people will see it and watch it, and they'll take their own.
It's a very it has legs, really, doesn't it? Mystery Science Theater. If you think that the fandom and the love for it. I mean, I'm the same. I was watching it as a kid on what we used to get it on the Sci-Fi Channel in the UK, and when they took it off the Sci-Fi Channel, I wrote to them and asked them, like, why have you taken this off? And it's like, well, because we've looked at the figures over here in the UK and there's like maybe 10 people watching it. I was like, well, okay. And then they sent me a little like stretchy alien to kind of say sorry. I was like,
oh, that's
thanks,
nice.
Sci-Fi Channel. But yeah.
I will also say that MST3K, people have over the years assumed that just because it's on MST3K, they only do terrible bad movies like a Plan 9 or something like that. A lot of times it's just cheap movies that had more ambition than budget, because one of the movies they had last season was Dr. Mordred, which I think is a fun movie. It's on its own.
And the story
it's a
behind that's
Doctor
really
Strange,
interesting
but
as well. Like the you know, like Charles Band and his kind of you know, how he gets things done. It's fascinating. I was just listening to his audiobook, and like the guy is a machine and just like creatively firing in so many different directions. But he gets films made, and he gets like big names, and he gets fun stuff, and you know, all power to him. But I get that did stand out a little bit, and a few of them do. I mean, like you say, it's not. And again, I'm interested in that what you said about the edit of it, because obviously they're editing those parts out for maximum riffs. Like in terms of it makes it funnier if it doesn't make sense. It's a bit like when you hear about people coming out of a reality TV show and going, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that," but in the edit, you know, they left out the bit where I apologized or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're editing it to what's going to be the funniest maximum amount of jokes that they can get in. And then also less so, I think now, but you know, in the past they had a runtime on TV that they had to stick with, so they had to cut a certain amount out. And then that episode, the Demon Squad episode, had a lot of Satellite of Love story with Joel coming back and spending a lot more time with the hosts. So they had a lot more that they had to cut out. So it was a very unique episode, but because
definitely.
of that,
it was a very the story behind around the film. I feel like that's they've gone more that way as they've gone along. So they kind of would have to, you know, it's like the opposite of riff tracks where it's just a riff. And no nothing. It's kind of serving a slightly different audience. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle of that. Like there's some of those sketches and skits and things that I think are amazing, and then sometimes I will just go straight to the movie, depending on how I feel.
There's mythology now, and I don't know if I understand all of it, but I'm trying to figure it all out. But and
I'm always for new ones. I'm always for new, like you know, I don't want to be one of those people who looks at something and just goes, "It's new and different, therefore I don't like it." You know, in the same way as the films that they riff, you know. It has exposed me to watch it. I love watching all different kinds of films, and I kind of hope that I would have discovered Demon Squad anyway. But like you say, it's trying to work out, and maybe, well, you can answer this better than I can. Do you see it more as a blessing now than a curse because of the people that get eyes on it?
Yeah, I do, and I mean, not only that, but I think like the writer of Demon Squad 2 is Devon Coleman, and he was one of the writers on the episode for MST3K, and he reached out on Twitter beforehand just to, you know, kind of break the ice and kind of get our thoughts. And since then, you know, we've been messaging pretty constantly, and so that's a friendship that's kind of built out of that.
How strange! How strange that's happened. Also, I've chatted with him a little bit on Twitter in the past as well, and he's a really interesting person to kind of follow on Twitter. And you know, I think that's really cool that you guys have connected.
And so it's definitely a blessing. You know, there's always going to be that one comment that you see that gets under your skin or something. But for the most part, I think people have embraced it and they enjoy it, and that's, you know, that's all I ask.
I get that. I have like a relatively small following, in terms of, you know, compared to, say, you know, if you put something out and people who watch History Science Theatre are all going to kind of check that out and then give you their opinion.
Mhm.
Occasionally, I'll delete that comment off my video or something, because I'm just like, I don't even want to engage with that. I
Yeah.
don't see the point. It's so negative, and I can take something that might help, or but often it is just like, what's the purpose of this? You're obviously an angry person, and that's fine. So go and be angry over there.
Yeah, and it's a small but vocal. I think they're just loud.
Yes. Yeah.
And because the majority of the people are just super nice, super sweet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but there's always going to be, you know, somebody,
Yeah.
depending on the platform, you know, YouTube and Reddit, definitely.
They
You're
can be,
looking for trouble.
it's strange because there's a little pocket of creators and YouTubers that I interact with pretty much on a daily basis, are
Mhm.
all super supportive,
Mhm.
really into their movies, love their films, love to bounce ideas off me, and vice versa, tell me films to check out, and it's just a
Mhm.
lovely little community. I guess the bigger you get, the percentage gets bigger of the kind of
Probably
the
so.
fools, really. Yeah, but like the one thing about that, I guess, as well, is it's a good way of kind of being able to listen to something and tell yourself, and as a creative, I think this is hard, and tell yourself that just because someone's saying something negative doesn't make it true, but equally, I'm open. I'm not gonna, you know, it's not nice, but I can take it. I'm
Yeah.
building that little shell of, you know,
Yeah.
I'm building.
It's the constructive ones are fine. You know, it's just whenever they come
Yes,
in
yeah.
and they're just the attitude and mean or whatever. But when they're being constructive, I welcome that. Yeah, yeah. Tell me what you thought.
Yeah,
But it's just
exactly.
the purposely, you know, mean spirited, just trying to hurt you.
Yeah, I
That's the
think that,
internet.
well, it is, and you know, I think particularly if you're kind of, what by doing what you're doing and enjoying what you're doing, you're winning, and
Yeah.
and that's the way I always look at it. So certainly with people who come at me with, like, whether it's in a, you know, professional capacity, or just when I'm doing things that I love like this, I always try and look at it in the sense of like, I can't, this can't bother me, because
Hmm.
I've already won. Like,
Hmm.
I'm
Hey, somebody
bulletproof.
watched it. Somebody
Yeah,
watched it. Somebody listened to it, and
yeah. Thanks for
you
watching.
reached
Yeah.
somebody. Yeah.
So like, obviously, there's, when you're watching it for the first time with the riffs on, like, most of it, like you say, is very gentle. Not
Mhm.
99% of it is very gentle and funny, and just kind of, you know, but it's also about maybe people you care about, obviously people you love. And they say thing. There's a line in there. There's only one line that stood out for me, and I don't want to focus on the negative at all. But
Mhm.
I was just thinking, how would I tell? Where is? I think this is something like, oh, they've stopped caring or something like that. It's just stopped caring. One of the characters has stopped caring, and I was like, oh, that's unfair. Like, I felt
I,
like
I
that was unfair. Everything else I was okay with.
I don't remember that. I mean, I think I vaguely remember something like that.
Yeah.
But for the
Sorry, I
most
didn't.
part,
I don't
I
want
thought
to.
everyone pretty much got out unscathed.
Yeah,
Um,
I do too. I do too.
yeah.
It's just, I'm just kind of interested in how, like, obviously, there had to be a first time when you sat down and watched it with the riffs on, or maybe you
Actually,
don't. I
yeah,
don't know.
it was actually live whenever it was first premiering, and then we were on the after show. So that was our first introduction to the episode and seeing what was. I was so nervous to tune in and actually watch it. I think I just listened to most of it and kind of looked away for some of it just because you didn't know what was coming. But
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of it, Aaron and I, we just looked at each other and laughed our heads off because it was just like so true. It's like
That's
it
cool.
was it was like I forgot what he described it as exactly, but it was Patton Oswalt saying it's something in like a Smash Mouth concert in a Spirit Halloween. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I,
I'll
I
take
don't
that.
100% get the Smash Mouth thing. I guess maybe the hat,
Yeah.
but the Spirit Halloween part, right on.
Yeah, it's. I
Excuse me.
mean, like I say, no, it's all right, being able to kind of. I think what makes you a good filmmaker, and most filmmakers that I meet, is that they're already aware. In fact, probably focus too much on the things that they want to improve on, and and find it incredibly hard to say about the things that they have done well. I think that's just part of being a creative person. Um, so like obviously the positive feedback you're getting from people like me, hopefully you get that I enjoyed the film, and people
Appreciate it.
who are commenting and saying, you know, like you said, the less, maybe sometimes the less vocal minority who just go love the film and
Mhm.
then move on. um you know, that side of things, um I guess that's what's important to hold on to as well, and just like the whole thing sounds like a really positive fun experience because that's how you
Yeah.
took it.
And yeah, definitely. And I will say that when the movie first came out on its own, just on DVD and streaming and everything, from like actual review outlets, it got solid reviews, like Film Threat and
Yeah,
places gave it really, solid reviews. So we were very happy with that. And so we were a
good.
little, but we knew, low budget and everything. So we were a little surprised. That's one of the reasons I guess we were a little surprised with the MST3K thing. But no, definitely the jokes and everything. We definitely saw where they were coming from, and some of them are my favorite. I think my favorite is there's a gender reveal party that went horribly wrong. It's like the green smoke chasing them. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. The effects aren't great there. Yeah, but and I think being like you said, kind of being aware of all of the flaws firsthand, that you might dwell on them a little bit more than others might. It's when you're locked in the edit and something's bugging you, and it's just driving you nuts, then you show it to somebody. Don't tell them what you're looking at, and they're like, yeah, what's wrong with that? That's fine. And you've
Yeah,
toiled over this for hours, and you're like, okay, I guess maybe it's not as big of a deal. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
sometimes, you get too close to these things, and you just know all the little seams everywhere, and you just gotta divorce yourself from it. And
That's it.
it's
I
difficult
imagine
though.
you'd never put a film out if you just were looking for perfection and keep tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and
Yeah,
tweaking. You just never happen, would it? Uh,
yeah.
so one of the things that I thought was funny in that episode was like the effort that they went into with the Cheers demon spoof,
Oh, I
because
love
I'm a
that.
huge
Yeah.
Cheers fan,
Hmm.
and I just thought that was one of the best little skits that they did in
Hmm.
the whole series, really. And for it to be kind of themed around your film must have been a real thrill to.
That one was really fun, and I think Devon was one of the main writers on that one. Yeah,
Oh,
he,
cool.
I was when I was talking to him. I think that they even had like a theme song, a spoof of the Cheers theme song for it, but they
Yeah,
didn't get to use it. But yeah, that one was really funny. That one was really funny.
yeah, that was cool, man. So like when you said you had to kind of make a decision. So were you approached? How were you approached? Was it like you were kind of just selling the film, or the film had obviously been released, and then you get an email or a phone call, or how does that? What does that look like? I'm sure there's plenty of people who may be hoping that they're going to get that call.
You mean from MST3K or
Yeah, yeah.
uh
Or both really, just in terms of getting it distributed, because I'm interested in
yeah,
that from the side of independent film, but also from Mystery Science Theatre getting in touch. Like, do they just, send you a
nope.
letter or?
It was so we had a sales agent for the film, and they had licensed it out to Wild Eye, who put it out on DVD and
Oh,
streaming. So they handled all of that. Um, and so we reached out to all these distributors when the movie was done, when it was making festival rounds, and you get your sort of your rejections, which are most of what you're going to get. You get some kind of lukewarm interests. I remember there was one guy who was like, "I love the film, but I have no idea how I'd sell this." And the team would kill me if I picked it up, because there's not a big name in it, and it's kind of weird. So you kind of go through all of these different things, and eventually you land on somebody who will take it and put it out there. And then it's just kind of out of your hands. They changed the cover art, they changed the name and all of this, and that's all fine. You kind of expect that. Um,
yeah.
and
That's tough though, isn't
then,
it? That must be quite tough
yeah,
because you've got ownership of. I know a lot of people who end up on Tubi sometimes they find out that their film has got a completely different name, like you say,
Mhm.
completely different cover art, and those things don't relate to anything in the film.
Yeah, I mean, it's all based on whatever is selling at that moment, you know. Trying to
Mm.
latch on. I mean, the Demon Squad cover has this big, like, winged demon, looks kind of like the Tim Curry Darkness from Legend, and it's like that's not in the movie. And there's like zombies on the cover. That's not in the movie, but okay, whatever might catch someone's eye to watch it.
Yeah.
And so it was out for maybe, I guess, about 2 years. And then I got a YouTube comment from someone watched the trailer, said, yes, this would be perfect for the new season, or this would be perfect for the new experiment. And then another comment, another comment. And I'm like, are they just having a laugh? Or are they just saying that this belongs at MST3K or Rift Tracks or something? So then, and I knew that there was a new campaign to make more MST3K. And so I just Googled MST3K Demon Squad, and then there it was. It's announced as Demon Squad will be as part of season 13. And
Oh
that was
wow! Oh,
yeah. So it took
that was it.
like a day of us going, is this real? Is this right? And I had to email the distributor, and then they were like, let me check on this. They had to check with who they licensed it with at Wild Eye,
Oh my!
and a day or two later, like, yeah, this is real. This is happening.
Of course, the
And
filmmaker's the last person to hear about it.
yeah,
Of
no
course.
idea, no idea. And it's kind of a blur after that to a certain degree. I think we just kind of watched like the Turkey Day announcements, and
Yeah.
the live stream announcements to figure out when it was airing and all that. And eventually, um,
It's
the
lucky you're
team
a
that,
fan.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
can actually
Otherwise, I probably would have
know
never
how to
known.
find. You'd be like, "What is this? Why are they doing this? Who are these
Exactly.
people?"
Exactly, and I owe it to some of the folks who watched the movie after it was announced, just watched it on its own, who championed us, and I think kind of bugged the Alterniversal or the Satellite of Love folks to have us on for the post show, because that was something that they were starting to do with the new season. And I think eventually they just caved, and they're like, okay, we'll have them on, and so that was really fun. But yeah, the whole thing was just that was crazy. It was
Yeah. I did
just
not
kind of,
expect you to say that. I thought it would be more kind of not litigious, but like kind of more like paperwork based.
I guess all that was handled between them and Wild Eye.
Yeah.
So yeah,
They're
yeah,
they're the they're the
last to
they're the
know.
main they're the main people that I hear a lot when it comes to those kind of things going on Tubi as well, and having that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So maybe it's just the kind of standard practice for them, which is like, let's get these movies watched by as many people as possible, get them seen in as many different ways as possible, and kind of just throw it at the wall and see what happens.
Yeah, probably so, because they're all, low budget films that have like a unique hook or something, like I think I saw one that was like a shark exorcist or something.
Yeah,
Just
Exorcist
yeah,
or Amityville ones,
yeah,
like
all the
Shark
Amityville.
Amityville,
Yeah,
Exorcist in
yeah.
Space, and
So they just throw like a big shark on the cover and in a weird title, and it gets eyeballs.
Well, that's what I admire about you, actually, is that you can't look at your films and go, "Oh, he's just following some trend," or you're following your heart and following
Yeah.
what you would like to watch. And I think there's a lot of people, like you say, that there's certain. Yeah, I don't really want to go and watch a Shark Exorcist film or
Mhm.
Amityville's 27 in Space. It's nice to have some mysticism and some kind of magical side of it, and the kind of a combination of different things, but in a kind of really cool, creative way. Certainly, I always like the going back to when I was a kid with Roger Rabbit and Eddie
Mhm.
Valiant, and that character, the guy in the office, who's the kind of grizzled detective
Yeah.
or private eye. We don't really have a lot of those anymore, and like you said, we also don't have a lot of adventure films either.
Mhm. Yeah, we don't have
Or
a lot of
when we do,
adventure
they don't do as
films,
well.
and yeah, they don't seem to do super. I think because a lot of times they're stuck in a time period that people and people just want think modern. It seems like, because everything
Mm.
usually goes back to like 1920s, 30s, 40s, and I feel like for some reason it's kind of like almost a Western now, where it's just kind of off-putting for a lot of
Mm.
people. They just want
Yeah.
something more
Even
modern.
even Indiana Jones,
Yeah,
it didn't get the kind of the sort of
I loved
excitement.
it. I loved it, but yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that's sometimes a bit like maybe the recent Exorcist film. When you're making a film now on that scale, whether you've got it's such by committee that certain things are compromised on, that maybe you lose the magic a little bit. I don't
I
know.
think so. I think there so much of it is such a machine nowadays. 'Cause you can look at the Marvel stuff, and it's less of a director's vision and more a bunch of suits standing around going, "You got to get this in. A's got to connect to B and C and D," and then you're left with not much nowadays. Not
Yeah,
much of a human story left anymore. It's more connecting the dots to get to the next big thing. Um,
yeah, yeah. That's
so I think
interesting.
a lot of that has become just sort of a product,
And I guess
unfortunately.
being an independent filmmaker, and maybe that's why people are seeking out independent films and low budget films, and kind of looking past, whether it is the CGI maybe not being, like you were saying before, it's not multi-million dollar
Yeah,
CGI.
and
People
I
are
feel
willing
like,
to look past that and enjoy the film.
well, and I think a lot of people, they're getting tired of everything being on a green screen. They're looking for more tactile, more to connect with, But then
Hmm.
also a lot of the big CGI fests that have come out, people have just the CG's not been great on those, and people have just like latched onto that as being a huge thing. So I mean, if you get past the CG for some of those movies, you should be able to handle the CG and or the effects in a
Exactly.
lot of the lower budget movies without a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
look at the Flash film. Like, there's some
yeah,
strange stuff happening in that film.
yeah,
That it's took a long while to make, and it's a lot of money, and you could
and that's
riff
what it
that.
looked like.
Yeah, you could riff that film and make and to put it into perspective. We talked about the riffs and playing with Demon Squad, and kind of how you could put that film on season 14 of Mystery Science
Hmm.
Theater, and they'd be making the same jokes,
Hmm.
or
Yeah, that was
certainly in a similar.
strange CGI in that movie. Yeah, but yeah, I think I mean, it's just everything is in like a weird state right now, just filmmaking wise, between the big studios and the indies. It's just very weird. So I think people are a little bit more accepting of the flaws in the smaller movies if they have something that they
Yeah.
can connect with or latch onto.
Yeah, and practical. I think you're right when you say about practical effects. Is the movies that I talk to people about, and that certainly that I love, and things like Basket Case and
Hmm.
Brain Damage, all the Head and Lot films, really. But like films where or Reanimator and
Hmm.
Society and all these, we often know the names of the people who made the the effects, the
Yeah,
practical effects, and people are. I think you're right. I was excited when you said about the we're getting that wolf
yeah.
thing. It's made is of course you could do that. Somebody could do that with CGI, but I don't think the audience wants to see that.
I don't think so. I think the last CGI werewolf. When I think CGI werewolf, I always go back to American Werewolf in Paris because it was rough. It was like PS2 level graphics with like hairless, and you compare
Yeah,
that to American Werewolf in London with the puppets and the makeup and
yeah.
everything. And it's night and day. It's a
Oh,
it's
that's
a
a really good
huge
point.
difference. But I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of those older movies with the practical effects, a lot of times you can see the seams. Like Basket Case, for example, there's
Mm.
nothing really super believable about the puppet. It's like
No, no,
it's
no one's
not
thinking it's a
real,
documentary.
but
No one's going like.
but it's charming. You buy into it because you're interested in the story, and it's part of that world, and you can buy into that world. This is a thing that exists, and I think if you are able to sell an audience on that, they'll go with it, seams and all, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, the ones, you know, the films that we're most nostalgic about, you can kind of see the gentle
Mhm.
eyes of Harry and the Hendersons, and
Yeah.
you can see the kind of little playfulness of Belial when he's doing what he's doing in
Mhm.
Basket Case, or whatever it is. You know, even things that you know, puppets that we enjoyed when we were younger, and these things. It's nice that those people who love those things, like yourself, are getting a chance to do them. We live in a world where someone can go and
Mhm.
make a movie, and I just want to say a huge thank you for doing that.
Well, thank
For your
you.
creativity and your passion for what you're doing. I just can't wait to see the second one. I'm really excited to see
Thank
the
you.
second one. Um, and is there anything in terms of people can do now to support the film, get on board with it, follow what you're doing? What do you want people to do?
They can follow us at fightingoutfilms.com, and they can find, you know, socials and everything there. We occasionally update a little blog or news post there. And I think from there you can probably find the link to the Kickstarter, which I do post pretty frequently updates on the production for not just the backers, but also for the public, so they can kind of stay in the loop and get some little sneak peeks at how things are made, and what we're doing with the money that we raised, and how we're spending it, hopefully, well, to make everyone happy, and just gonna get a peek behind the curtain. So we've kind of been enjoying that. So that's, you know, that's, just stay tuned, and when it comes out, watch it.
Oh,
Watch it
yeah,
and
definitely for
spread the
sure. Yeah,
word. Yeah.
yeah, and congratulations on the success of the campaign, because you know
Thank you.
plenty of people do not get to that point, and I think that just goes to show that there's a lot of people who are really excited about this movie.
Yeah, we're
So yeah,
very humbled. Yeah,
that's great.
very
That's
appreciative.
great. And I really appreciate your time as well. Hopefully, once you know either the movie's made, or you're further down the line, or you have a little bit of time, you could come back on and tell us about the next steps and where you are, and how
Love
it's
to.
going with the film. That would be really cool. I love to keep in touch with you know, with creators, and kind of show the people who are watching the channel what you're up to next, because that sort of excitement about film, it's infectious, and I can tell that you are, you know, super into what you're doing, and I know it's not easy making independent film. I get that, and from my friends, and from, you know, what little bits that I've had to do with them myself, it is admirable and fun, fun too. Hopefully, you're having fun.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Stressful
good.
but fun. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Thomas. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you for having
And
me. I appreciate it.